And he just thank you for coming. I had a feeling he'd be the only Democrat here, so he's in the line, and I kind of feel sorry for him, but this question's not going to help him out any. And that's the kind of, just got the approval for the red light cameras. And they're at selected intersections. Now, tickets are going to be mailed to violators, and you have no problem with that. Now, the question is, well, wait a minute. They're going to be making money on this. Now, the question is, where's the money going to go, and how is it going to be distributed?
Okay, so there's approximately, well, that's not this year, but next year we'll receive approximately $14 million in revenue from that. Okay, and the city's done very well with it. If you blow a red light and you get a ticket in the mail from this red light camera, you have to pay a fine, but there's no points on your license. You should know that. Okay, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. Right? They are on county intersections. Okay.
That's big brother.
Okay.
I'm against big brother. And you know, in this country, where it's
So if I can answer the question, I will say that my little sister thought it was a big brother.
Nobody speak out of turn.
So I will, someone asked me, you went, okay, so just for the record, ma'am, my father was killed by someone that ran a red light. And I'm going let me just say, in a bipartisan way, Legislator Schmidt and I amended the bill to make sure that those monies were dedicated to seniors, youth, and veterans, because we have to make massive cuts in those budgets this year because of the massive deficit we have in the budget because of sales tax. So Legislator Schmidt proposed an amendment for youth and seniors, and I amended it to include veterans as well, so that money gets dedicated there first.
Okay, thank you so much. I just like to take a moment.
That bill became before us in the State Assembly. I stood up and asked some questions. One of the questions I asked, is there anything of the bill, Mr. Chuck Levine from Long Island, who was put in office through the help of Mr. Mejias, sponsored the bill. And I asked him on the floor of the Assembly, as part of the record, is there anything in this bill that would assure that the monies garnered from these cameras, from this process, would go back and restore the monies cut from groups like YES, from the Mother Center, from the other social programs that have lost money? And I was told on the floor of the Assembly, during the debate, on the record, no, there's nothing in the bill. I also asked the question, if someone's following state law and an ambulance or a police car with its lights on comes behind you, the law says you have to move out of the way. Would you then not have to pay for that ticket? Anything in there? No. I was a little offended by that.
For all of it. What about flat tax? That's 19 or 20% for personal, corporate, or any other taxes? What do you think about it?
I'll go first. I will be all in favor of the flat tax, providing.
What was your question?
The question was, what do we think of a flat tax as an alternative to all of these other taxes? I personally would favor a flat tax, provided that it's in the legislation that they can't turn around like they did with the star exemption and say, okay, we'll take the flat tax and we'll keep the property tax. It's got to be one for the other. Because they find new and creative ways. It never ceases to amaze me how creative, I shouldn't say they, because I'm one of them, but how creative we can be in taking money out of people's pockets. If they don't want to raise property taxes, then they'll raise a fee or a fine or come up with a new license or whatever. So yes, a flat tax in exchange for property tax. Maybe that's a method of how to fund the school district, to get the school district tax off our backs, but it's got to be one for the other.
You might want to point that camera this way. I agree with Legislator Schmidt.
It's snowing out.
But there would be, but there has to be, as part of the bill, that it's only in exchange for the complete elimination of property taxes. right? And it would have to be a bill, and on the national level, I would also support a flat tax as long as there was an elimination of all these loopholes for the big corporations that take jobs overseas, and the tax code is way too big. A simple flat tax would make it easier for everybody. So,
straight answer.
We have one last question from our organizer, Laura.
Okay, our Tea Party's main concern at this point, obviously, is taxes. The one small little break that we did get, our star rebate, now has been stripped. So what actions do we have to recover it, and what are you going to do to recover it for us?
We have a one state.
For that one.
I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I'm extremely frustrated with that too.
This was outrageous. That was part of the MTA bill was one of the worst. The state budget was one of the worst. I voted against that, and I'm so sorry to continue to beat this drum of partisanship. But there's a reality when all the Republicans voted against it. That was so wrong for Long Island. And we voted against that, but it still passed because Long Island gave the Senate majority to the Democrats. And we have 3 people in control. A governor from New York City who's a Democrat, a majority leader of the Senate from New York City who's a Democrat, and a Speaker of the Assembly with overwhelming power who's a Democrat from New York City. And I think all 3 of them could learn a very valuable lesson from the leadership of people like John Venditto, who has brought us good quality services.
I just want to take this time right now and just thank all these elected officials for coming down for our This is what government is about. This is what government is about. Put off the one face to face.